And now it's time for me to introduce our keynote speaker, Susie Reinhardt. Susie was diagnosed with cervical chordoma in 2016, and that's really all I'm gonna say about her because she's gonna tell you all about her journey. I do wanna note that Susie had surgery on her lumbar spine a month ago, like 1 month almost exactly, right? And a small tumor there, and so we're just amazed and thrilled that she's here with us and so grateful. So welcome, Susie.
Sweet. Hi, everybody. I'm going to try to. I have my tissues. Important. And we're going to do a little tech here. See if this works. Too many things. I think I will just do good old-fashioned paper. Okay, is this good? Everybody can hear me okay? Thank you, Shannon. And thank you, all of you, for rising early and being here this morning. And for those of you who are watching, thank you for bringing your table and your cushion and your dinner to watch us in Europe or wherever you are. I really appreciate everyone coming together today. I am Susie Reinhardt, and I live in Boulder, Colorado. But my exceptional medical team is here in Boston. And it's very meaningful for me to be here because Dr. Al-Mefti and Dr. Arnaud and Dr. Chi from Brigham Women's were the first people who operated on me. And then my oncology team, who I see every 3 to 6 months, are right here at Mass General Hospital. First, that was Dr. Leach, and now Dr. McDonald and Dr. Cote. And just down the road in Rhode Island, Dr. Gokaslan is a neurosurgeon who specializes in spinal tumors, as some of you know, and he operated on me just last month. So it feels really meaningful and really great to be here in Boston. When I was diagnosed with clival chordoma, it was 2016, as Shannon said. I was 45 years old, and I had 2 young kids. I was managing a student international travel business, and I was also a competitive ultra runner. That was 7 years ago. Since then, I've had 2, maybe 3 craniotomies. It sort of depends how you count the first one, whether it was 1 or 2. I don't know, it was just a long couple of days. Since then, I've had multiple recurrences in my skull, and my cervical spine, and in my lumbar spine as well. And I've had proton beam radiation in 2016, as well as in 2020 here at Mass General. I'm fused from my skull to C6, and that's right, my head is definitely not screwed on straight. Then, as Shannon mentioned, on June 14th, I had a laminectomy to remove a tumor at L5 in my lumbar spine, and that was in Rhode Island with Dr. Gokaslan. It was successful, and here I am today, which feels great. But in between all this, I skied, I surfed, I even climbed. I got to see my son graduate from high school, and yes, as you can see, my kids grew and so did their hair. I got to see my daughter perform in musicals, and I even climbed a volcano in Guatemala, my family. Isn't it true that we don't often take the time to pause, to breathe, and to celebrate how far we've come? So I want to do that right now, just together quickly, which is if you could just close your eyes, sit or stand up straight, and take a deep breath in through your nose and exhale out through your mouth audibly. We're all doing it together, so don't worry. So just inhale and exhale. Let's do that again. Okay, inhale and exhale. And one more time. Big inhale, take another sip, and exhale. Okay, Here we are grounded here together. It's amazing. So in 2018, I gave a TED Talk, and at the time it was about my chordoma diagnosis and surviving. It was about not dying. Today, what I want to focus on is surviving and how I came back to life, and this idea of living with chordoma, how we can move from catastrophe to calm. My notes are missing, so I feel like I need to update this. We'll go back on this. All of my experience reminds me of a children's book. No, it's not Make Way for Ducklings, it's Going on a Bear Hunt. Raise your hand if you know it. It's like, we're going on a bear hunt. We're going to catch a big one. Awesome. Thank you. So in the book, the family goes on an adventure and they encounter obstacle after obstacle: tall grass, thick mud, wide rivers, swirling snowstorms, even a gloomy cave. But at one point they encounter a forest, a big, dark forest. When I was diagnosed with chordoma, I did not handle it gracefully. I packed my family up and sent them camping so that I could remain alone in my anger. I sat alone in my room for 72 hours and I cried. I was pretending to meditate, but really what I was doing was slamming my door, kicking a trash can against the wall. I really wanted a cure. I really wanted chordoma to go away. But in that moment, what I realized was that the best thing for me was to write in my journal. So I picked up my pen and I wrote pages and listed all my fears and worries about chordoma and how much I wanted a shortcut. But once I knew that there was no shortcut, I wrote in my journal, I choose brave over perfect. And what I meant by that is I just knew that the way to go through, thank you. This was my main thought. I will die young without a voice. And that's when I picked up my pen and I wrote in my journal, I choose joy over fear and brave over perfect. And I stumble trip the way the family does into a 32+ hour surgery with Dr. Al-Mefdi. And thanks to them, and spoiler alert, I survived. And there's Dr. Al-Mefdi and Dr. Chi. Now, when this happened, things are good for a while, and then the what ifs begin, right? What if the tumor comes back? What if it grows bigger? What if, what if, what if? And in fact, when doctors used to say to me between scans, go, live your life, have a good time, it used to feel almost insensitive or dismissive. I felt, how can I live my life? My life is totally different. My body's not the same. I'm not the same. What do you even mean to go live your life? And so I would hold my breath between scans. And it took me years of doing that to recognize that there was such a thing as being able to live fully through the scans and through the treatments. One thing that really helped was when Dr. Leach actually said, oh, this was a big thing for me. I couldn't run anymore. And because I was fused, I knew I was not the same. And so I didn't understand how to live a full life. And Dr. Leach said to me, look, what you have is a chronic illness like diabetes. It cannot be cured, but it can be controlled and managed. That helped. So I started to live, even the radiation and treatment parts of my life, not as the things in the way of life and living. So this was in the Proton Beam Radiation Center on Halloween. And this was not Halloween, but I've always wanted to be the captain of a flight deck, so I dressed up. I worked hard to see even my treatments, even a recurrence in my skull. I worked hard to have a sense of humor about it, as I know you do too. Yes, chordoma did come back. And so I've had a few recurrences, and this, when it came back in my cervical spine, the same spine that had been already fused with the hardware, I did not want a recurrence. I wanted the movie Miracle. When a doctor says, hey, you're free to go. You know, your scans are clean, you don't need surgery, you don't need radiation, you don't need chemo, you don't need anything. You never even have to see a doctor again. That's what I wanted. Facing a recurrence felt like making it through the forest and staring at deep, full mud. Uh-oh, mud. Thick, oozy mud. So I was prepped for surgery on my cervical spine. I was already under anesthesia when the surgery was halted suddenly because they discovered an unusual blood vessel shaped like a hairpin that was right next to the tumor and supplying blood to my spine. It was too dangerous to operate. So they stopped. And so my husband Kurt and I also did a hairpin turn. We canceled our plans and headed home. And we moved through the thick, oozy mud, much like the family in the picture book. Squelch, scorch, squelch, scorch, squelch, scorch. Fortunately, that tumor is being quiet and behaving itself. And I have been doing a lot of living. I even started running again. I started with a 5K to raise money for the Chordoma Foundation, and then a 10K, where on my birthday, my friends ran as a rainbow, and I got to be the pot of gold. Then in April of this year, just as I had started to train for a longer trail run, I found out that the tumor on my lumbar spine was growing. This was not what I wanted. I had already received the maximum allowable radiation in the area, and the change felt overwhelming and frightening, like making it through the forest and the mud to be facing a cold, deep river. Uh-oh, a river. A deep, cold river. We can't go over it. We can't go under it. Like the children in the story, we had to go through it, right? I splashed and I sploshed from one submerged stone to the next. I did research and I made calls. First, there wasn't a neurosurgeon in Colorado with experience with chordoma. And then insurance wouldn't approve my scans to prepare for the surgery. Now I know I'm ridiculously fortunate. I'm white, I'm privileged, I have excellent health insurance. Imagine if English were my second language. Or imagine if I didn't have the money in my pocket to travel to Boston for my care. Or imagine if I didn't have the time to dial and redial to get the help that I needed. Thank goodness for the Chordoma Foundation. So then, after days of calling, someone does help. Karina, an insurance associate, approves the scans. I need to get surgery. So splash, splosh, stone. This, it turns out, is how we face chordoma, or any big challenge. It's not the big bear hunt that we thought. It's the splash, splosh approach of a chronic condition. We focus on the first partially submerged stone, and then we leap to the next one. We focus on the first treatment, and then we leap to the next one. We move through targeted radiation, advances in surgery, clinical trials, and immunotherapy. And we cross the river, determined to outpace chordoma cells. I want to pause for a moment here to say that we are able to outpace many chordoma cells because of the tireless work of the Chordoma Foundation and the hardworking researchers and doctors that are here at this conference and beyond. We have so many more options than even a year ago. So thank you to each and every one of you who've been working on that. Yeah, let's actually give them a round of applause. But still, I really, really wanted to back out of the surgery. The risks were great, including losing mobility in my left leg. I wanted to find a shortcut with less suffering. You know, one with no obstacles, one where I got to keep my mobility and strength, enjoy some summer running, and have no tumor. But the shift happened for me when I recognized that the obstacles in my path, the surgeries, the fusions, the radiations, the scans, they're not in the way of me living. They are living. It's during the scans and treatment where I find kind nurses and doctors and strangers. It's where I discover how creative and funny my friends are. It's where I feel most deeply connected to my family. And it's where I get to practice becoming the human or being the human that I want to become. One who worries less about what is not working and one who focuses on what is. The obstacles, it turns out, are the path. I haven't failed and my body isn't failing me. It's just time to level up and face the next adventure. So off I went for another major surgery. Uh-oh, mud. No, now it's the cave. It's the narrow, gloomy cave We can't go over it. We can't go under it. Oh no, we've got to go through it. When I woke up post-spinal surgery, I learned that Dr. Gokazlan was able to remove the tumor, but would I have my mobility? So I wiggled my toes, and they did this great little dance. Wow, they could move easily. It made me happy cry. My nerves somehow weathered the surgical beating and bounced right back. And as my friend Jill points out, oh, of course they did. You have kids. They've already done a beating on your nerves. Your nerves are so resilient. It turns out we are all more resilient than we think, right? Society puts a lot of emphasis on longevity, on living a long life. But I think most of us want a rich, fulfilling, meaningful life. One that's full of quality relationships. Chordoma has given me that. Without Chordoma, I would never have met Dr. Al-Mefdi, or Dr. Leach, or Dr. Cote, or Dr. Gokazlan. I would never have met Shannon Lozinski, or Dr. Shannon McDonald. I never would have met Dan and Karen Taylor, the couple who lets me stay in their home every time I come to Boston, out of the goodness of their heart. I never would have met Susan Hall, my friend and a peer coach with the Chordoma Foundation. I've never met any of you. And I definitely wouldn't have written a memoir. I finally got to write the book I've always wanted to write. It's called Fierce Joy because sometimes we have to be fierce to listen to our own voice and not the voices of others. It's a meditation on living fully and what gets in the way, not Chordoma, but mainly perfectionism and fear. I definitely would not have the compassion or the empathy I have for people going through their own flavors of adversity. And I wouldn't have convinced my husband that we needed to get a dog. So there's the memoir, and there's the dog. So take a moment now and close your eyes. I want you to think about the people you've met because of Chordoma. And can you think about one lesson that you've learned because of Chordoma? And finally, think about something or someone that you are grateful for today. And then open your eyes. I am grateful for this dog. This is Leo. But I am also grateful for this conference and the ability to be here in person with you and the ability to connect with you on Zoom over the years in the past. If you would like to connect with me, please come up to me today. I'll be here all day, and especially after these morning sessions, if you want a book signed for someone or for yourself, I'm happy to do that. And the book is there. It's yours for free. If you want to give Chordoma Foundation a boost to thank them for this conference, please consider going to see the volunteers at the resource table and donating 20 cents to $20 to thank Chordoma Foundation for this amazing experience. All right, my Chordoma story is not one I would have expected. It's not one I could have predicted, and it's not one I would have chosen. But it has been full of surprising, positive mysteries and full of life. I used to live by attaching my happiness to an outcome that I could not control. If the tumors go away, if I get clean scans, if my kids pick up their towels off the floor, then I will be happy. But what I hadn't learned yet is that there are many ways to be happy along the way and live a wonderful life. And none of those are devoid of challenges. The children's story ends in bold lettering. We're not going on a bear hunt again. Kids know the truth. They know the challenges are what make life an adventure. It's no wonder that when the book is over and all is calm, they want to read it over and over again. We Chordoma patients and supporters also know the truth. We'll probably have to get out from under the covers and go back through the cave, the snowstorm, the forest, the mud, the swirling snowstorm again, the deep forest, the river, and the tall grass. But we do it because this crazy, beautiful life is worth it, and we do it because our relationships are worth it. And we do it together, you and me, choosing brave over perfect, to move from catastrophe to calm, and to savor life along the way. Thank you.